Welcome to WVVH's coverage of the 17th Annual Hamptons International Film Festival. I'm Julie Walker, and with me is Greg Schimizzi.
Hi, everybody.
And we've got a great show in store for you. We've got celebrity interviews, including Sharon Stone, Pierce Brosnan, Alec Baldwin, as well as a host of stars from around the world. This festival has over 100 films, and some of them have gone on to win Oscars, so this is an amazing opportunity to see some great talent and some great movies.
So get nice and comfortable, get a bag of popcorn, and we'll take you behind the scenes to the most wonderful film festival in the world, the Hamptons International Film Festival.
Stay tuned. First of all, congratulations. You look gorgeous.
Thank you.
And you're Cheryl Hines, and you're in Serious Moonlight playing here?
I directed it.
Okay.
Yes.
Tell us about the film.
Well, it's called Serious Moonlight, and Meg Ryan, Timothy Hutton, Justin Long, and Kristen Bell star in it. They call it a love-hate comedy. It's about this couple that are driving each other crazy. We'll just leave it at that. I don't know how to describe it.
See it for yourself. Is that the best way to describe it?
You have to see it before you hear too much about it. That's what I think.
You're on the other side of the camera. How does it feel to make the transition? Because a lot of people know you from Curb Your Enthusiasm.
It was very exciting to make that transition. It was I had a lot to learn. I still have more to learn, but it was like going to grad school and making a film with movie stars in it. It was great.
Did you get any advice from Larry David?
I actually did. I asked Larry to watch one of the very early cuts to tell me what he thought and give me his notes. And he only had a few at that time, and I had enough time, and the picture wasn't locked, so I could actually implement his ideas.
So, and you had a screening earlier today. How did that go, and how was the audience reaction?
The screening went really well. The audience was very responsive. It's very exciting to be the director of a film and hear people gasping and laughing, and the end of the film, you could hear a reaction from the audience. It's exciting.
And now, how did you get your stars for this picture? Because you have a great cast.
Oh, my stars. Well, I knew Kristen Bell and Justin Long, so I literally just called them and asked them to be in a film that I was directing, and they happened to like the script, so that was lucky for me. And then, I just reached out to Tim Hutton and to Meg Ryan. I thought they would be perfect in this, and they also loved the screenplay, so it was kismet.
So if you don't get to see the film here at the festival, what's next for it?
It'll come to theaters on December 4th.
Great, congratulations.
Thank you.
And what's next for you?
What's next for me? Well, I don't think I can say yet because it hasn't been announced. But I'm on Curb is on our season is up and at 'em now. So on Sunday nights at 10 o'clock, you can see Curb Your Enthusiasm.
And how's that going for you?
Oh my gosh, it's been great. This season was really exciting because the Seinfeld cast was on, and Larry wants me, so that's always makes me feel good.
It is great.
Shocking.
To be wanted.
It's nice to be wanted for once.
All right, well, thank you so much.
Thank you.
Congratulations. How good does it feel now that the festival is 17?
Well, I think that my hope is where is it going to be beyond that? This is a community that grows. More and more people live out here, and there's more development out here, and more money out here. Hopefully we're going to get some people to give us some of that money for the festival. I never was one who thought that a festival out here would work because we're the shadow of the city, but it's worked quite well, and I'm very happy. I'm looking forward to where is it going to be 5 and 10 years from now. This is a good small festival, you know, medium-sized festival. It's not like Sundance or Toronto, which are great festivals, but the small nature of this, you know, we have it in the fall because it's tough to bring people out in the summertime. Really, a lot of wonderful films. It's a little more low-key.
How excited are you about your conversation with?
Marty's an old friend of mine, so I think it's going to be great.
Let's talk about The Greatest. It's a big film for you because you're starring in it and you're producing it.
It's a wonderful film for Carey Mulligan, who is a rising star. It's a wonderful film for myself, everything you've just spoken about. I love the picture. I'm very proud of the picture. It's a very hard market now to make these kind of films. The independent world is being crushed by like everybody has, the economics of the world. So I don't think we could have pulled this off if we were trying to make it today.
What attracted you to the film?
The writing of Shauna Feste was really impeccable. And Lynette Howell, who's a producer on it, had done Half Nelson, which I really admired. And I just love the challenge of going out with a very strong script and a bunch of actors who want to act and want to show up and be brilliant every day and be passionate every day. John Bailey is the DP, was incredible. He showed up for this movie. Ordinary People was one of my favorite films, and so it goes on.
Last question. It's very emotional. Does it mirror something in your own life at all, in a way?
I'm a father. I know what the glory and the ecstasy of it all is, one way or another. So go see the movie when it comes out. Thanks.
Thank you very much, Pierce. The Hamptons International Film Festival adds some star wattage to its lineup with Pierce Brosnan, better known as 007. He's got a film here that he not only acted in, but also produced. I'm Julie Walker, and you're watching WVVH's coverage of the Hamptons International Film Festival. We're here at the opening night party at Gurney's Inn with Shauna Feste, and she just had a great movie play to open the festival called The Greatest. You're the director of the movie. It was amazing. I was really moved. I laughed, I cried, I was just completely touched by it. Would you tell us a little bit about the movie and who stars in it?
Sure. The movie is with Pierce Brosnan and Susan Sarandon, and it's about a family, a couple that loses a son in a car accident on the night of high school graduation, and 3 months later they get a knock on their door, and it's a girl they've never met before, played by the incredible Carey Mulligan, and she tells them that she is pregnant with their son's baby.
And we were delighted to see that Pierce Brosnan made it out for the opening of the film.
Yes.
He's a great actor. He plays the father, and as you said, Susan Sarandon plays the mother. What was it like directing these two major stars?
I was completely intimidated in the beginning, but they were so incredibly generous with me. I mean, you can make it very hard on a director, you can make it very easy. And they were so generous, and they made it so easy on me, and were so lovely that it wasn't very scary at all.
Any great stories from the set?
Oh, I mean, the set was filled with a lot of tears, unfortunately. It wasn't like we tried to laugh as much as we could, but everybody that got involved in the movie was making it for a very personal reason. I think we've all lost someone that we love. So it was somewhat of a sad set.
And tell us a little bit about your career prior to directing this.
This is the first thing that I had ever directed, and that's why it's so amazing that I got to work with actors at this level. And that's why I will thank them for the career that I have now, because if they had not said yes to this movie, it would have never gotten made. What was the question? Sorry.
Well,
It
is very loud here, and if we seem to be yelling a little bit and seem to be very close, it's because it is very loud, because it's a big party. But we had talked about what you did before this, and this was your first directing a movie. What's next for you?
I'm directing the movie in January with Gwyneth Paltrow.
Wow, another big star.
Yeah.
Now,
Now the greatest not only opened here, but it's also going to open across the country. When will that be?
In March. It'll be coming out in the theaters in March. Yeah.
Well, welcome to the Hamptons. Thank you.
Very much. It's great to be here. Thank you.
Here we are at the opening night party of the Hamptons Film Festival. One of my favorite songs is playing by Jay-Z, and I'm with Amanda Pennington. No relation to Chad Pennington.
No relation. No.
She's an actress. Tell us the name of your film and tell us about the film.
The name of the film is Everything is Ordinary. It's a short film, and it's being played in the New York Women in Film Day. They have the day that they're playing the films. It's about a patriarch who, it's like his last, he's dying, and it's like the day that he dies, basically, and it's just little scenes from the family and how they are dealing with the grief. So it was, Noelle Brower is amazing to work with. She's the director, and it was so much fun to do. So
Tell us a little bit about your career. What else have you done?
I've done little plays, little films, little independent films, and this is like the first film that kind of is at, I don't know, it's my first time at a film festival like this, right? So it's very exciting.
Tell us what the experience has been like. Is it everything you expected? I mean, what did you think?
It's I don't know. It's like you have this image in your mind, and then you come, and then it's like, oh, and here's where to go. And everybody has been so nice and just welcoming and very gracious, and so it's that part has been really nice. People have kind of helped me and shown me where to go and what to do, and like where to stand, and it's fun.
Now, what's next for you? You've got this short film here, and what's next in your career?
I have actually. There's a film that's been, on the back burner for a while, which is a story. A lot of independent films, I think, get put on the back burner because of financing, and so this film is hopefully going to go into production next in the spring, and it's going to be shot in Savannah. So I'm excited about that.
Savannah's a nice town.
It's a nice town, and it's in the South, so I'm happy to.
Now, Midnight in the Garden of Good and Evil was already done, so
Yes, it's not. That's not. Yeah, no, it's a totally different film, but yeah, it should be.
But you can't tell us more about it.
I can.
We know it's not a remake of Midnight.
No, it's not a
All right, Amanda Pennington, thank you so much for joining us.
Thank you for having me. Thank you so much.
Well, this is your all-access pass to the Hamptons International Film Festival. WVVH has been not only covering it these past couple of days, but covering it for the last 17 years.
Right.
Greg, you want to talk a little bit about your involvement with the festival?
Sure. We've been covering the festival, and we're very dedicated to the festival over 17 years. And we started out as a very tiny station, but now through FiOS Channel 14, we're available through the whole tri-state area. And Julie has been an incredible partner with us, and very knowledgeable and an accomplished reporter. And our mission is to try to bring to the people at home basically our love of film, and to see behind the scenes exactly what the festival is about, from the young filmmakers, the up-and-coming filmmakers, to the established great stars that everybody knows.
That's why WVVH sets up here at the Hunting Inn, and that's why we spend all our mornings interviewing filmmakers. Someone could have a 2-minute short and we'll interview them for 10 minutes, and someone could be a major star and we'll take that same 10-minute time with them to talk about what their movie is about.
That's a great point, because what happens through the emails and things that we get as we've been underway for all these years, early on it was actual fan mail and telephone calls to the stations. What people are interested in is, for instance, you're a young person at home, and you'd say, I'd like to be an actor, I'd like to be a director, what's involved, what's at stake, and a lot of those questions are answered, and I think that we take filmmaking and television very seriously, And it is an art form, just as any other fine art form. And I think through the art of conversation, we try to get behind the scenes and establish what brings a filmmaker to do his or her art.
So keep watching WVVH for continuing coverage of the Hamptons International Film Festival. This is WVVH's coverage of the Hamptons International Film Festival, and with me now is Brenda Scheider. She is joining us, and she's a local, which is wonderful. It's so nice to have you with us. She has 2 films at the festival, which might be a record for a filmmaker to actually have 2. A short called Smiles, a story of Roy Scheider, who is your husband, and In My Hands, which is a documentary. And tell us first about the short, because it seems like it's a very, very personal movie.
Yes, the short, Smiles, is the title of a film made in 1964 by John Avildsen, and he made this little tiny silent black and white, starring Mr. Roy Scheider at age 30. Marty Scorsese was the AD.
Wow, a very young Marty Scorsese.
A very young Marty
go
and a
on
very
to
young
do
Roy.
Some amazing films
Yeah,
himself.
so I got inspired by that because I thought it represented Roy as a young man. It represented the fact to me that there is no time. There's Roy in 1964, there's Roy in 2008 and 9, and there was no time in the cancer process. So his cancer journey was a look for me at having time stand still. It was the sort of the instant zen of realization that nothing matters except the exact moment you're in, and nothing does that like sitting in an ICU. And that's how that came to pass. And I wanted to show Dr. Bart Barloghy, who is this terrific researcher and caregiver of people with multiple myeloma, blood cancer in Little Rock, Arkansas. And he's an amazing guy. He's German, and he so reminded us of Bob Fosse. So here's Bart all in black, and a purple stethoscope around his neck. And Roy just loved this guy, and he loved Roy, although he'd never seen a movie. He didn't know who Roy Scheider was.
He'd never seen Jaws.
No. He's German, and he's a physician. They don't have time. And he does 24/7 in multiple myeloma, finding the cure. So I combined Roy and his new film, Iron Cross, which will be out this spring. Don't ask me how. We shot this in Krakow in the middle of his being sick. Magically, it's being put together. He didn't get to do the last scene, so it's a bit of a magic trick. It's like a Keith Ledger magic trick. And so we've got Roy in his upcoming film and Roy in his first film. And that to me symbolized, okay, you are now frozen in time without any time. There's no linear time. It's just a device we humans latch onto so that we think we have something that we can control.
How do you think he would have received this film?
Mr.
About
Roy?
his life? Yeah.
Oh my God. I think Roy would laugh. And maybe the best part about this is that he's the opening act for Miss Anne Reinking, who was one of his co-stars in All That Jazz. And Annie Reinking was my roommate from the time I was about 20 in New York.
Now, you were telling me a very interesting story about Annie, and that brings us to our next film that you did, In My Hands. And it's a story of Marfan syndrome. And Annie had that, correct?
Annie does not have Marfan.
Oh, I'm sorry.
She had, and within her family, I think they had a spontaneous generation of this mutation of the gene. And it happens in 25% of the time. It's just spontaneous, and nobody knows how that happened. And there you are, suddenly this very elongated person and long, long, long fingers, and you're 5'10", you're 6 feet tall. And nobody notices that, because in this culture, as we know, having been a model, I mean, God bless, you're tall, you're thin, lucky you. But
oh, you're not speaking of me, you're speaking in general.
Well, sitting down we're the same height, standing up I'm 5'10".
I'm 5'5".
Are you?
Yes.
But you see, seated we're the same height, right? So,
Lucky me.
Yeah, something happened to my femurs, and they got longer. But I think that Annie meeting me all those years ago and having our lives overlap the way they have, that I got to walk up to Roy Scheider in 1980 and say, oh my God, you were Joe Gideon. You were a Bob Fosse, the way he wishes he were. So you were bigger than Bob, you know?
So you were on set with Annie? And
I didn't go to the set.
Okay.
I met him in a drugstore.
You met him at a drugstore,
but you knew... Run, you do run. Yeah, at the Zittimer's Pharmacy on 76th and Madison.
But you had that common connection, so you were able to go up to him and say, I'm not just some adoring fan. I know Annie. And so.
I'm Brenda, and Annie's my roommate. And so then he listened to me, and I think he sort of looked me over from the floor, you know, he went up and down. And we ran into each other once a year for 3 years before he actually insisted I give him my phone number.
Was it love at first sight for you?
Well, let's put it this way. When we were at this mutual meeting at Elaine's, coincidentally, I turned to him and I said, oh, Noel Ben, our friend, a writer, said, you know, Roy Scheider? I said, geez, yeah, I sure do. I've had a crush on him for years. And Roy said, well, I've had a crush on you for years. And I said, well, Mr. Scheider, does that mean we're engaged? And he looked me square in the eye. He said, Brenda, you keep forgetting. We've been married for years. And I excused myself and went to the loo. It was a weird moment. That's how we really, really met. And is that love at first sight? It's definitely recognition at first sight. I felt like I knew him.
Schmata, From Rags to Riches. Unbelievable. This movie struck a chord in my heart because my mom was a dress operator, and we're lucky to have here with us Mark Levin, who's the director, the mastermind behind this beautiful motion picture. Welcome, and it's an HBO motion picture. It's going to be out when it's going to be out?
It'll be on HBO Monday, October 19th at 9 p.m. And you know what you just said, it's so funny. So many people that I run into when, you know, I say, did this film on the Garment Center, they're like, oh, let me tell you, my mother, my grandmother, my uncle, my neighbor. So many people are connected, especially Italian American and Jewish American, connected to that place in Midtown Manhattan.
Well, I'll tell you, when my brother and I were youngsters, my mother had a full-blown Singer sewing machine, a factory machine, which we still have to this day, but I wrapped it in bumble wrap after she died. I said to my sons, let your great-grandchildren unwrap this at some point. But she would say, to make money, to survive stitch by stitch.
And you know, it's so interesting how many metaphors, stitch by stitch, hanging on by a thread, and our subtitle, which is actually rags to riches to rags.
Right.
The making of clothes and garments and apparel is so part of every human culture. And so we chose it to look at the Garment Center as a microcosm for all these changes, globalization, automation, deregulation, immigration. How did they impact real human beings?
And also what happens, you see, you know, that thing that we notice now is when people think of fashion, of course they think of Fashion Week in New York, the big tents, Mercedes-Benz a sponsor, beautiful models and everything. And of course that's part of it. But the behind the scenes, what it takes to make a garment,
that is so true. We rarely pull the curtain back to see, from the seamstresses to, you know, the cutters, you know, to the marketers, the machinists. I mean, it's such an ecosystem, really, of human skills and trades, and we've lost touch with that. And I think that is part of kind of what makes this film interesting. We know about the auto industry, we know about the steel industry, so much American manufacturing that's left, but the fashion industry has accelerated and is basically a major force in global youth culture. It's ascended.
And also you think of sweatshops, and among the young people out there, of course, they think sweatshops, they think overseas and in China and all these other places. But right here in New York, in fact, I went to NYU, and in the building where one of the greatest tragedies of New York, young women were leaping to their death, the shirtwaist
the triangle shirtwaist fire.
And my great aunt actually worked in that building.
Is that right?
Oh yeah, she survived it by mere happenstance. But what what happened then, it was unbelievable, and it was right there, right. If you go down to NYU, they have a plaque, and you could see it. And every year they have a ceremony, which you sort of illustrate in the film. But it shows that within a generation or so, this happened right here, right in New York City.
Exactly. And in our film, the Triangle Shirtwaist Fire, which really was, some people said, a little like 9/11 in that it was a wake-up call, and obviously the horror of just seeing young women jumping out the window and in flames, and it was just, all of a sudden it mobilized people. Hundreds of thousands of people were at that funeral, and the beginning of the idea of having fire escapes and sprinkler systems and having unions, you know, they could represent.
Unlock a fire door. Also, the ladders in those days only went up to maybe 7 or 8 stories.
Right.
And unfortunately, the women were on the 11th and 12th stories.
That's right.
And there was no way out, and they leapt to their death, and they were 17, 18 years old, and horrible.
Well, that's amazing. You have a family connection to that.
Right.
The woman who heads HBO's nonfiction, you know, Sheila Nevins, an amazing executive, she also had a relative, a great aunt, who died in that fire. And not only is it part of the beginning of Schmata, but at the end we come back to a similar tragedy that happened in Bangladesh only years ago. That this sadly has not disappeared from the world.
And also, you know, to make a garment and the pride that went into it was unbelievable. Even you know, it's, I guess, like the auto industry. You had pride because you made it, and it was a New York piece, and it was done by, you know. My mother made the complete garment by piece, you know, by you know, as fast as you could make them. That's how you got paid. And at night, she would do homework.
Right, right.
And in front of the TV set, we used to be watching TV and pulling belts inside out. And it became part of the fabric of what it meant to be.
I think, you know, just
to survive.
Hearing you, I think I'm in the documentary because you know, you again, it's a first-person story, and two things I would say that come to mind when you're telling that story about your mother. One, that this idea of having pride in your craft and that quality matters. This is something that sadly we've lost a lot of in making things, you know, and having pride, and that you didn't have to be a millionaire, you didn't have to have a big mansion out here to have pride and to feel your life was worthwhile. So that's very important.
Let's talk about the union, because the union was it's a very protective thing, because you never felt alone.
Right.
You know, and if you could speak about that, what it means.
Well, I would say, first of all, unions have gotten such a bum rap, you know, over the years. You know, they're blamed for the collapse of the auto industry, the garment industry, every industry. And look, I would be the first to acknowledge that just as business got big and greedy and government got big and greedy, you know, unions got big and greedy. That happened. But what they contributed, and this idea that your mother and my great-grandfather and so many others were able to come over here, and that tragedies like the Triangle Shirtwaist Fire forced them to get together and to find a voice in collective bargaining. And we wouldn't have unemployment insurance or Social Security or pensions or health care. Any of these things
Dental, glasses.
we take for granted. They're all part of what came out of the